Here in Studio 33 AD, we want to welcome Dr. Sarah Quilici. She is our superintendent of Catholic schools here for the Diocese of Boise. So first off, thank you, Sarah, for taking the time to join us here in Studio 33 AD. Well, what is it that these schools do that makes them distinctive, if not unique? So why Catholic schools?
You know, I have a story. When I first became principal of St. Joseph's Catholic School, I started in July, and I started over the summer meeting all the teachers and talking to them and getting a lay of the land of the school. And then school started mid-August, and then we had our first Mass, probably the second Tuesday of school. And I remember coming into the cathedral, and there were 350 students with all of their teachers. And I was so amazed by the behavior of the students. They were reverent, they were participating in worship, they were together sharing in our Catholic faith. And it's a moment that I hinge on what our Catholic schools do often, because that's why we exist and that's who we are, is that, you know, we are called to make disciples, and we are teaching students the elements of their faith. And along with that come character education, comes a desire for service and meeting the needs of the community. It comes how to be respectful to one another and to treat each other kindly. I was so impressed that even kindergartners could sit through Mass and be reverent and polite and respectful. And I think that story just typifies what we do in our schools. And that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of partnership with parents, but that's our goal, and that's how we come together and why we do what we do.
What was it like being a principal of a Catholic school?
You know, one thing that I think is very interesting, especially now being in the superintendent role, is that within our Catholic schools, each principal is kind of a mini superintendent. They're a superintendent of their building. I remember during what we now fondly recall as Snowmageddon, which was the winter of 2017. I was pregnant. I remember getting a call at about 2 a.m. that the roof at St. Joseph's School had caved in. And that was incorrect. It had not. It was actually a snowslide on one of the sides of the church that had just come off, and it was very loud, and neighbors thought that the roof of the school had caved in, and so they reached out to me. But as a Catholic school principal, you're responsible for your building. You're responsible for your school's budget. You're responsible for, ultimately canon law defines the pastor as the head of the school, but the pastor delegates a lot of that responsibility to the school principal. And there isn't, my role isn't as a central office as much as in a big district. And so it puts the principals in a unique role and has to guide a lot of things at the school. And that's one of the things that I really learned in being the principal at St. Joseph's. And it's helped me in this role to kind of see how to serve and support my principals, because, I understand what it's like to be in that role. So it's interesting. I grew up on a mint farm in Meridian, Idaho, and went to public school. And somewhere around my sophomore year, I told my dad, I'd really like to go to Bishop Kelly. And I told him I wanted to go to Bishop Kelly for a couple reasons. One, I grew up in Kuna, and Bishop Kelly was our big rival. But there was something that attracted me to Bishop Kelly. And he said, we're not Catholic, we're not paying for you to go to high school. And so that was kind of the end of our conversation. So flash forward, and I'm now a college graduate, and I taught for a year, and I was out irrigating in my father's mint field, and I got a call from Scott Coulter at Bishop Kelly, and he said, "We heard that you are going to work on your master's at Boise State and that you might have some free time. Would you be interested in come teaching part-time for us?" And it was so interesting to me, to get this opportunity. And so I said yes, that I would go teach part-time at Bishop Kelly, and I taught speech and debate just for 1 year as I was getting my master's degree. And then a few years down the road, after I'd been teaching a while back in public schools, the assistant principal job opened up at Bishop Kelly. And I had built all these connections there as a teacher and really had an interest there. And so I went back to Bishop Kelly as an assistant principal. And, then later St. Joseph's principal. And so it's been a series of yeses and a series of being called to come to these Catholic schools.
So in your case, you converted to Catholicism,
I did.
one, and then you converted to Catholic education.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a complete package deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. The best part of the job is being able to work with students still, but even more so work with teachers. I think one of the great successes that I see now are teachers who are stepping up and leading professional development for our schools. We want good teachers to stay in the classroom, so I'm not saying that we're wanting all of them to become principals, but we're growing our own leaders in our school. And maybe their leadership capacity is that they're going to be a teacher leader at their school and lead professional development in small groups within their school. But I also feel like we're developing some leaders who will become our next core of principals in our Catholic schools. And it's really rewarding and really exciting to see that process happening. That's been a priority as we've reopened with COVID. We were talking about before this began that all of our schools have been open for in-person learning all of fall, and we're open now for second semester in person. And we've had to rethink the way we do things, and one of them is Mass. We want our students to still be attending weekly Mass, but bringing all, especially in the larger schools, bringing all of those students together at one time can prove to be a challenge. So at Bishop Kelly, for example, there are 870 students this year. So once a month, they're still having their school-wide Mass, and Father Vance is celebrating that Mass in the chapel at Bishop Kelly, and the students participate live streamed in their classrooms, and then the extraordinary ministers of the Eucharist, the campus ministers, bring around the Eucharist to them. And I know at St. Joseph's School they've had to have smaller groups, which is usually 2 grade levels come on a Tuesday at a time, and then the other students either tune into that liturgy or another liturgy to participate each week. So it's paramount that we're still, this was one of my first experiences of just really, sitting in Mass at St. Joseph's that first time has really stuck with me as, wow, this is what we do. And here we are in 2021 now where things look different, but we still need to have that experience of this is the source and summit of our faith. How do we bring our school community together to celebrate the sacraments, even though it looks a little bit different?
Well, I know, for example, St. Joseph's dates from 1900.
Right, which is why the question always got asked to me when I was principal at St. Joseph's, why is St. Joseph's School named something different than St. John's Parish? And that's because St. Joseph's School started in Idaho City at St. Joseph's, which was the cathedral at the time. And so now St. Joseph's moved here, and then St. John's Cathedral was built, and that's why there are 2 different names here. Okay. At least that's my understanding of the story. St. John Bosco, formerly Summit Academy, became affiliated with our diocese in 2018, and they actually have a daycare at their school, and then they serve students in pre-K through 12th grades. So we do have other high school students. They're in Cottonwood, Idaho, so right in central Idaho, we have students that have an opportunity to come for a Catholic high school experience. And St. John Bosco is actually in the process of building a brand new chapel. It should be done sometime this early spring on their campus, so that they have a small enough community that they're still able to gather for Mass. Fall of 2017, St. Ignatius opened in Meridian, Idaho, and it has been so well received. It's been full with wait lists in most grade levels since it opened, and even through this I would say especially through this crisis, all of our schools have either sustained enrollment or grown in enrollment if they have the capacity, and that's kind of the tricky thing with COVID protocols. We have to restrict capacity, so that kind of challenges us. But there's been, I would say, growing interest in our schools because we've committed to being open to serve students in person. And one of the things that you'll see throughout the news and you'll hear is this need for social emotional development during this time, that it's hard for students to be isolated, learning at home. They need connection. They need, and going back to what you said about Bishop Kelly, body, mind, and spirit, it's always been our goal to foster that spirit side too. We can't neglect it. It's important that we get physical exercise. It's important that we learn things, but it's important that we nurture the whole student and especially that social emotional component. So that's been something that's always driven our schools. And in this time of COVID-19, I think parents have seen a need for that even more, and we've had more interest in our schools. Because they partner with you as a parent. I have 4 children in my own home, and it warms my heart in so many ways when they bring home different things that they get at school and share it with our family. Or when they say, we need to go do this in service to our community because we've been talking about the need for this in our school. A Catholic school partners with you and takes the values that you profess and enjoy at your kitchen table into the school, and then it becomes a seamless back and forth. Students get an excellent education, but they also get an education in the faith and values that are part of who you are in your family. Okay. Before we go, Pope Francis has declared this the year of St. Joseph. Starting December 8th, 2020 to December 8th, 2021, it's the year of St. Joseph. And so it's a great opportunity for St. Joseph's School in our diocese to be helping our other schools remember St. Joseph and recognize who he was and celebrate his quiet, humble life and the hope and joy and peace he can teach us in this moment today. So we want to recognize St. Joseph this year.
Thank you.